Hi everyone, welcome to a brief overview video of your Chapter 4 feedback form. So a quick reminder, we're going to be writing Chapter 4 across two courses, 815 Data Collection Analysis Part 1 and 816 Part 2. So Chapter 4 is pretty big. It tells the whole story of your implementation. It tells the whole story of your PDSA cycle. So whether it's me or whether it's you have another dissertation chair, you will be passing back and forth in this course two files. You'll be passing back this feedback form file back and forth, as well as your Chapter 4 document, like the actual Chapter 4. This feedback form primarily serves as an organized way for both your chair and you to communicate back and forth with your edits and your revisions. And hopefully for some of you who like to work with multiple screens or like to print things out, you can have like your task list of revisions to make kind of up and static and steady while you're actually in your Chapter 4 document working. So you can have these two separate files. So make sure you read over the instructions, and I will probably say here that it is likely that based on whenever you're viewing this video that the actual form itself might have some additional adjustments or revisions. Maybe there's some typos that we've updated over time, but essentially the document should be very similar. Make sure that you label your feedback form appropriately. This month, day, and year, make sure that that's always the time or the date that you're submitting your file for review. That's going to be really helpful to make sure that we're always kind of working from the most updated version. Your chair will return it with an updated date and time, or updated date, so we can kind of see the chronology of it. Some of your goals: make sure you stay organized, name your files carefully, complete all revisions that you have that I've requested for you, and your chair should approve those. Make sure you add revision comments to your Chapter 4 document. So just because you have this form and you mark that they're completed, you need to also indicate where in your Chapter 4 document you actually did that revision. And that's really helpful for some of you who are in education. It's helpful to know whether or not you as a student know exactly, are communicating or know exactly where that revision takes place, so that your chair and you can have this maybe streamlined understanding or connection of what that revision request actually is. And it's really helpful to have those revision comments because this document is going to be pretty long, and we want to, all of us, avoid maybe that the experience it can be of like trying to hunt for the revision, like where did this actually happen? And when it's a really big document, that can waste a lot of time. So the revision comments are like these little helpful stepping stones or breadcrumbs that point your chair's attention directly to the spot where you made those revisions requests. Your goal is to reach proficient in all sections within 1 to 2 weeks of your initial submission for that section. So you'll see here below that there are going to be rubrics for each of your sections. Your goal is to reach proficient within 1 or 2 weeks. I won't be surprised, I'll go ahead and scroll on down to this first rubric section, that maybe the first time that you submit something, you might reach the developing criteria, the developing evaluation, but hopefully with your revisions, you're getting into the proficient, or hopefully with your revisions, you're also getting into the strong evaluation. So I'm not going to walk through this entire feedback form, but I'm going to walk through essentially the organization of it. So you will find throughout this feedback form, if I were to zoom out, that you have all of these different sections for each section of your Chapter 4. So there's the introduction to Chapter 4, followed by your participants section, followed by your measures and instruments section, etc. So they're all kind of delineated like that. You have let me zoom in a little bit more. You have for each section a rubric. This rubric should be the same rubric that we see in our Canvas course. Each section has its own particular rubric. And underneath that rubric is a space for your DIP chair to offer some comments or just some generalized feedback, and a table of revision requests. And this table is separated over two pages, but you can see that it's just a continuation of a table. So the table has a few different sections. Two sections are for the instructor, your chair, and one section is for you to respond. So each section has a revision number associated with it. This is the participants is the second section, so we'll see that these revisions are labeled 2.1, 2.2, 2.3. The measures and instruments section is the third section, so they are labeled 3.1, 3.2, 3.3, right? So that's how we can delineate the different revisions. There will be a revision request outlined by your instructor. So here's just an example. Revise the first 2 paragraphs for clarity and coherence. Ensure each paragraph has a clear main topic sentence. The date that it's due, so it's probably like the next submission or like the next week. This is where, once you have attended to revising those first 2 paragraphs, under status, you'll write complete with comment, meaning that you made, and there's a little note out here, for each revision that you make, highlight that specific revision, add the comment revision 2.1, or maybe it's revision 4.5 or 1.3, whatever that is, so that, again, the instructor can clearly attend to or like figure out exactly where that is. If you have any notes or responses, you can add those here. You're right, they were rough. I've updated both paragraphs by removing repetitive information, revised the main topics, and to focus on the main idea of each paragraph. And then the instructor, once you submit those revisions, whether or not they're approved or not, you might see any indication here. You might see a check, you might see a yes, you might see additional comments, you might see try again, or even maybe there's like some more refined revisions. So that's essentially how we will track our revisions for Chapter 4. So you will take this feedback form with your Chapter 4, those 2 files, and we're essentially passing them back and forth with each other. So for me, example as a chair, I'll read your Chapter 4, I might have some embedded comments, and I summarize those revision requests in your Chapter 4 feedback form. I date them, the date that I'm passing them back to you, I pass them back to you. You then take your revisions, you look at the revision requests in this feedback form, you hop into your Chapter 4 document, you make all those revisions, you update those files with the date that you're submitting them, and you pass them back to me in the next, the next assignment submission. And that's how we'll go. That's how we'll go back and forth. Yeah, this feedback form is for the entirety of Chapter 4, so you'll see all sections. It doesn't mean that we will attend to all sections in 8:15. This is just simply a continuation. All of Chapter 4 will be here, which means we will continue to use that same form in 8:16. All right, as always, let myself or your chair know if you have any questions.